So as we're going to run through this presentation, you do have an area on the lower portion of your screen where you can type in some of your questions. And at the end of my presentation, Brett and I will take all of your questions, so feel free to ask any of those questions. And without delay, let's get taking a look at Inventor Publisher. So here I'm just starting, and I'm going to open up and insert a different file. In this case, I'm placing in an Inventor assembly file, which is all the different file formats that we can work with. Now you'll notice that the user interface is very clean. Right? In this case, I'd like to go back and just change the background. I don't have menus and menus to go back through. So here I'm just going to change the background to a photo booth. So it's a nice, clean, white background. Now down at the bottom of the screen, this is where we're going to start setting some information in regards to the document. So think about it as you are going to be the producer. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a storyboard, and inside of each of these storyboards, we're going to create snapshots. Think of these snapshots as just points in time. So what I have on the screen right now is I have a right-click menu, which is now referred to as a marking menu. And this could be a very clean way for me to go back and create new snapshots or create another command. So what I'd like to start off with, maybe is I want to just select those two parts, and I'd like to change how they're going to appear. So with Publisher, I have a few different styles that are predefined, and I can modify these. I can go under my materials list, and if I simply wanted to change the color, you can see that I have a nice, easy color wheel. I can go back and change that, see what it's going to appear. If I change that color wheel again, just reselect those parts, and the colors are going to be updated. We also have an enhanced material library. So you can see all the different types of materials. So as I go back through here, I'm just going to select down the metal option. And you can see that the list is fairly in-depth of the different types of materials that we can apply. So first of all, I'm going to just select everything here. Let's get going. And what I'm going to do is I want to explode this. So what I simply want to do is I'm just going to grab all those components and tell Inventor to go back and separate each one of those parts. Now each one of those steps has basically been created inside of a snapshot. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to drag that slider, and I'm just going to move it, showing each of those snapshots. Now down at the bottom part of my screen, each of those have been created, so I'm just going to play that. So I'm creating a very simple, quick animation. So as this plays, you can see on the lower left-hand side, I'm getting each of those steps. As you can see, that doesn't look too bad. So I can go back. At this point, I can select on a specific snapshot and see what's happening. So right between step 5 and step 6, maybe what I'd like to do is change the viewpoint. So I'm simply going to place in another snapshot, and I can go back here and change the name. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to change and tell Inventor Publisher what I want to have happen when I change the viewpoint. So we have a simple view cube up in the right-hand side. You'll notice each of my snapshots are now changing to reflect that new orientation. Now, just kind of go back here. We'll just replay a couple of steps, and you can see that the remaining steps are now showing that new viewpoint. Now with each of these snapshots, again, you're in complete control of that. Maybe that last snapshot, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I didn't want that. And I'm going to create another snapshot. What I'm simply going to do is I want to just move one of those buckets. As you can see, there's no complex dialog boxes to go back through. It's very clean. What I'd also like to do here is I want to take that bucket and rotate it. I'm just going to select on a circular edge to rotate it, and very graphically move it to the correct orientation. So again, now as I go back here and I'll play the last few snapshots, you can see my animation. So literally in a couple minutes here, I was able to go back and create all that documentation showing how this is going to be disassembled. So of course, with a lot of owner's manuals, we'd like to go back and create some trails. I'll turn those on very quickly. So if you have, CAD experience, or if you don't have any CAD experience, you can see that this is going to be a very quick and easy process to go back through. So here I'm just selecting a few of those components, and I'm going to pull off an annotation. Now these annotations are pulling off property data that was created inside the 3D CAD model. So here I'm tying these to the part number. So you notice inside of Publisher, I didn't have to type in any of that data. We're pulling all of that from the application. So you notice here I'm just going to drag the arrow, and as I change that to its new part, the part number changes. Now between each of these snapshots, I'm in complete control on how I would like to animate that. So right now I have a 1-second animation going between each of those. I'm going to reverse the storyboard. Maybe I change my mind at this point. I'd really like to say, someone's going to get this bucket, and it's going to be in different pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is have them arrange the parts. And what I'm also able to do here is I can add a description. So for each one of those snapshots, I can go back and tell them to do something very specific. Tighten this down, apply Loctite. Now as I play each of these snapshots, you'll notice down in the bottom portion of your screen, it's showing that text that I added to each of those snapshots. So we'll exit that presentation. So let's say at this point, I want to create a video. And the video that I'd like to place here, I'm going to create a Flash video. So Flash is a very nice, small, compact video that I could place on my website. So here's what the Flash video looks like while it's playing inside of Explorer here. And you can see as it's running through each of those steps, I'm getting that text to appear. Really quick, really easy to go back and do that. So we're going to exit out of Explorer. Let's go back into Publisher here. I'm going to start back. I'm going to go back to the main document. Now at this document, I'm going to create another storyboard. So again, a storyboard is just something like you would do if you were creating a movie. So I'm going to create another storyboard. I'm going to rename it. And for this one, I'm just going to create some individual shots. So maybe what I'd like to do here is create some information that we would maybe place inside of Microsoft Word, or if I just wanted a raster image, maybe for our website. I'm going to start basically over. So I'm going to return all of those components to their home position. And I'm going to change how they're going to appear. So in this case, I just have it as a nice black and white line drawing. Now showing another technique here, I can manually disassemble these parts. So just by clicking and dragging on those, I'm moving those components. Now if I want to grab those bolts, move them a little bit further, I'm just going to continue moving those bolts further. Again, I'm going to create another snapshot. I'm going to change my orientation. I'm going to repeat that process. Again, I'm just going to select those components, and I'm just going to separate them. Can't get much easier than that. Now with this bucket, next thing I'd like to do is add a parts list. So again, it's going to pull all of this information from Inventor. So of course the parts list is showing each of these components, what their part numbers are, a given description, how many there are. And you'll notice here as I highlighted item number 1, all of those plates got highlighted, so it's all cross-connected here. And of course I can go back here and I can move these items around. And again, they're intelligent. So the item numbers will always be adjusted correctly. So of course the next step here is I'll just adjust the location of each of those item numbers. And next, I'm going to place in an image. So this is just a raster image. Of course, we have a little bit of a pinch hazard here. I'm just going to show you how I can place in some arrows. So I'm going to just start off by placing in a linear arrow. You can see all I need to do is just click and drag points. I'm going to color that back in. So we'll just make it red. I can move that around, and I'm in complete control which one of those objects are going to be on top. Now for the next arrow, I'm going to place in a circular arrow. So by just picking on that circular edge, the arrow is orientated correctly. So I can flip that around. I can resize that. I could change the color if I wanted to. I'm in complete control. So with that marking menu, you saw what I just did is I just simply did a quick right click and I just dragged my mouse. So as you get a little bit more comfortable with Publisher, you don't even have to wait for those menus to appear. I can just start rolling with it right away. Now with these annotations, again, I'm going to create another snapshot. I'm going to turn off all the annotations. And again, I'm going to restore everything back to its original position. And you notice since all of my parts are selected, maybe I want to show these shaded again. Or I could go back again to that materials library and apply different material. With Publisher, I can go back and create a section view. So again, you can see it's very visual. As I go back and drag that arrow, it's real time. I can flip that around. So we'll look inside the bucket. And I'm going to create a second section. In this case, I'll come back off from the top. And of course, what you're seeing here is that you can combine multiple section views. And I'm in complete control, so I can turn those on or off as needed. Again, creating another snapshot. And let's take a look at creating a detail view. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to select on my geometry. I'm going to pull off my detail. And if I want to resize that, if I want it to be larger or smaller, just click and drag. I'm going to now edit exactly what I'm going to be viewing in. So I'm going to make that circle a little bit smaller, move that back over the parts that I want to see. And you can see that my detail view has now been updated. So now I'm going to change the tables here. So I'm going to go back into Autodesk Inventor. Now what I'd like to do is make a design change. You know, one of the issues that I was talking about early on in the process here, people that are doing the documentation may not necessarily be in the design and engineering group. And of course the issue always has been, you know, well, I can't start creating the documentation until the design is done. Well, that's no longer true with Publisher. So you'll notice I was able to create most of my documentation. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make a simple design change here. Again, if you were using, you know, just Microsoft Word with screen captures, you'd have to go back and redo everything. So inside of Inventor, I made my change. I'm going to go back into Publisher, and all I need to do is click on Update. Now, each one of my snapshots are going to be updated to reflect the new geometry change. There was nothing else I had to do except click on the Update button. So now I have a design process where I can start all my documentation at the same time as I'm creating the information for the design. So now what I'm going to, of course, do is I want to save this.